But yeah, so we're just gonna kind of give our like brief summary on how we feel about the movie, like a 30-second to 1 minute, kind of what our thoughts are, and then we'll really dive into the cons first, and then the pros right after. We'll kind of give both of our insight and talk about that for as long as we want to talk about it with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll start first. I think The Whale is a really fun film. It's based off a play, I think the 2012 play, The Whale. And you really kind of feel that throughout the movie. A 99.5% of the film takes place in the living room. So there's not a lot of a lot of material to play around with. But what I love what Darren did, the director, I'm not going to try to say his last name again. He made it, he did his best to play around with it. A lot of fun drifting shots. We call it on set of Sweet Magnolia as a Serenity drift. I saw a lot of Serenity drifts and just a lot of really playful shots that kind of worked really well within the scene. And the performances are incredible, just unreal by Brendan Fraser and Hong Chow. Like I said, all of them were just insane. But I think that it is a very boring movie leading up to the final 20 minutes. And I know Braden doesn't really agree. We'll see what he has to say about that. But I think it's a boring movie leading up to it. And I'm going to get into that a little later. But overall, I don't think the movie is that great. I think it's really well made. It's just not really interesting for me. But I do believe that the director, the writing, and the cast is what really made this film something.
No, I mean, hey, that is a really good take. That is a really phenomenal take.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm gonna make a good point. I think on why I liked it so much is I came from a theater background, so I feel like maybe it resonated better with me because of the smaller scale how it is. Me being used to a smaller like stage, more captivative kind of performance being live and stuff. But my thoughts on the movie is that I think it was really amazing. The message that they try to get through out the movie is really just inspiring to me, and it is also realistic in terms of they don't sugarcoat how the world is and how the world views and kind of decides to mistreat people and turn their back on them sometimes. But at the same time, those are the people who are still the most optimistic. But as Logan said, the acting, in my opinion, is a top five for me. Like I have never sat there and been so captivated multiple times throughout the film where I was like, "Holy crap!" Like wow, like Jesus, getting chills and stuff. Brendan Fraser, yeah, Sadie Sink, yeah, they did really phenomenal. But and Logan made a really good point, and I agreed completely. Was with how the director, his shots were just phenomenal, and he played it so well, and it felt scene by scene, felt correct, and just there was I could just see the storytelling through every shot. So I really enjoyed it. I really thought it was awesome.
There you go, man. There you go. So that's just our initial thoughts. We're gonna dive into the movie really crazy here in a second, because Braden's kind of teasing me with that little. He said the theme of the movie. I'm kind of curious to see what that's about. I know he's been kind of teasing me with that through text. He's like, "Yo, I think all these characters have this one story." You're kind of telling me, bro. You're kind of telling me. So I'm
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
curious what you got
yeah.
to say. But yeah, we can kind of start with the cons, because I think that you don't have as many negatives. And I don't really have that many either. It's just kind of two big ones for me that kind of feel a little off. And then we
Yeah.
can obviously talk about the pros, which we'll go on and on and on and on with this film, for sure. And I'll do the same. But yeah, let's kind of start with the cons, man. There's two big ones for me.
Okay.
It just, like I said, I think the number one is it was very, very uninteresting for me leading up to it. And this kind of goes in with my second con, which is just not connecting to characters. And I think this is, I think that's because, well, a lot of different reasons. But I think, you start out with Brendan Fraser's character, his name's Charlie. You feel bad for the guy because he obviously is very obese. He's literally dying throughout the film, but they paint him as this nasty creature throughout the entire film. So the thing that kind of threw me off, Braden, and this is something I didn't bring up and haven't told you about until now, is like, they want you to feel bad for this guy, but they don't do anything to make you feel bad for him or make you feel for him. they start out with like the really nasty, masturbation shit, and then you go into just him eating like just in a really grotesque like manner, and it's like you're painting this. I understand why they're doing it, but you know, you just you don't do anything else throughout the middle of the movie or toward the end of the movie that really make me care for him. It's like you've already dug yourself in this 6-foot hole that you just can't climb out of. And I think a lot of that had to do with risks later on in the film, because when you paint your main character, especially your main character, in a bad light, like what they did with Charlie, and like I said, I understand why they did it, but once you do that, you have to take big risks to get the audience to fall in love with them. And it didn't work for me, and really, it didn't work for any of the characters in this movie for me. This is a movie I want to watch again, just because I feel like I'm gonna probably pick up on certain things, and sometimes the movie theater experience can be a little off. You know what I mean. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really bad.
No, I totally get what you're saying.
And there might be a smell, there might be somebody next to you. You know what I mean. You don't know. It might just throw you off a little bit, but it was just weird. I couldn't connect with this film. Could not connect with the characters, and it felt like the only character that I really cared about a little bit would maybe be Liz, played by Hong Chow. She was great, and she was hilarious. I think she stole the show every time she was on screen, because I think Brendan Fraser had his best moments when he was by himself or when he was with Sadie Sink's character. But when Liz was on camera, her character was probably the most engaging, I guess. And I felt very drawn into the movie and very drawn into that character a little bit. And like I said, the director did a good job of kind of bringing me in. I remember watching it sometimes, and we were kind of talking about this during the movie. I would kind of nudge you sometimes. You would look over at me with some really good shots. Those drift shots, those really, really up close shots. He built the emotion really, really well. But I feel like once again, the first 30 minutes of that movie just threw me off. And when you lose me like that, I'm probably going to be lost for the rest of the movie, and that's just kind of me. But yeah, for me, and it's so weird because as an actor, and I'm sure you can attest to this, Braden, being an actor, it's so easy to put yourself in a character's shoes when you watch a film. And I think that's why I get so emotional when I watch, really sad movies. And we're going to talk about a few of them in our top 10 movies of all time. But there's some movies that just I literally, dude, I don't cry, but there's movies that will make me cry. Like I've probably cried more watching movies than real life stuff, and I think it's because I can put myself in these characters' positions with what they're dealing with, and it's almost like a side mission to my job. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of fun. But with this movie, I couldn't do it. I don't know why. And some movies are like that for me. I just feel like I just lost interest early on with it, and I couldn't get back to it. And even with the amazing directing and the amazing acting throughout this film, it was very captivating, but it wasn't enough. And I think a big, once again, going back to what I said earlier with them not taking any risks, there's so many characters that could have had a lot more potential and gone certain ways. And we were talking about this. They could have tied these characters up. Their arcs could have been way better, and they just kind of like throw them away. The pizza guy, Ty Simpkins' character.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of my points.
Yeah, it's like what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like give me something. And I think I made this analogy. I don't know if I made it with you or if I was talking to somebody else about it. But it's like when you watch Shark Week. And these guys go out, and look for great whites in the ocean. They don't ever go out there with no chum. They always have chum. They always have blood to bring in the great whites. This movie felt like they just kind of got into a boat and went out and looked for great white sharks with no chum. There was nothing that really was captivating or nothing that really brought me in. And that's kind of my problem with it. But I mean, just like I said, really talented people behind and in front of the camera. Just I don't know, man. It just wasn't engaging for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can follow up on the one note you made. I mentioned Logan. One of the characters, he's a missionary in it. It didn't completely bother me, but the way his character arc was built the entire film, he had a completely twist of an ending to his character. And not even like once you guys watch the movie, if you watched it, and I'm not going to spoil it, there is a shock in it that you find. There is shock value to it, but the problem is it after the shock value, it jumps to a whole different trajectory. Like it's not even the same thought anymore. You know what I mean? We're in a completely different like character's head at this point. It doesn't seem to correlate to who the character has been the entirety of the film. So like he's one of them. The pizza guy, I actually have something I've done a little bit of research and synopsis reviews, and that one actually for me is going to be a pro on how his character arc ended. And I also do think this can go back to the missionary. I think this film is based around a lot of sadness, and it's not supposed to be a happy movie. And a big theme of the movie is we as people turn our backs on the people who are disgusting like that and who don't want help and lie to us and don't accept their truths. And I think that's the biggest theme of the movie is Charlie's character as well as Sadie Singh's as well as um the
Hong
woman that
Chow.
played Hung Chow.
Yeah.
Um all their characters, including the missionary, they all had these truths that they wanted to prove to themselves, and they just couldn't until I would say the progression towards the end of the movie. And a good referral thing that I saw was like the pizza guy. The thing is, every single time the pizza guy was in this movie, he tried to further a relationship with Charlie. One time, eventually, Charlie comes out to get the pizza, and the guy's waiting there for him. And once he sees what Charlie looks like, he is disgusted and he turns away. And I think to me, and what I was reading is it's a big reference on like that's how the world is. Like this guy was willing to create a relationship with Charlie the entire time, and all these characters are, but the moment they see what he is, like nobody's willing to help him, and they just their back on him. And it is kind of a crappy arc, but when you think about it, it is almost a realistic one too, depending on who it is. The pizza guy I can understand. The missionary, I have to fully agree. They could have gone somewhere a little bit more with his character.
Sure, sure. No, and I understand what they're going for with the pizza guy. Like you said,
Yeah.
he would always come up with his little sub or whatever and say hi, and then he was like, "Yo,
Like,
what's your name, bro?
yeah.
What is your name?" And
Are you doing
and
all right?
and yeah, exactly. And like you said, try to further that relationship, and then he walked out and was disgusted and ran away. I understood that, but like for me, it's like we get it. Like I understood that you've already shown that with three other characters in the movie. So why do we need another one? Like and that might just be my problem. I might have had too high of expectations for that kind of thing. But when I was sitting there watching that, I was getting a little interested in that character, and dude, I was more interested in that pizza guy than really, other than Liz, any of the other characters. Like I was so interested
Really?
in what that arc was going to be because they put a little bit of emphasis on that. You know what I mean? And you even turned to me in the middle of the movie. Remember? You kind of gave me some
Yeah.
theories in the middle of it because there was something there, and that's probably what's really hurting me with this film is it's like the potential. Um, there's so much potential, and
Yeah.
they could have dove into Charlie so much more, but they didn't. And his
Yeah.
history with his boyfriend he had
Absolutely.
and everything, they didn't do it like that.
Absolutely.
That would have been the way
The
to get
fact
our
that we didn't get
attention.
a I'm not gonna say they should have thrown a flashback in there, but the fact that we didn't get a single scene with his significant other who has really caused the entire premise of the movie, why wouldn't you?
Hmm.
You see him in a picture.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. The only note I have for Charlie's character really interests me because I think the story that he ends up reading, the essay that we find out is eventually Sadie Singh's, um, it's like really his lifeline. When he starts to freak out, he needs to read it, and I think he has like a really deep connection with the story Moby Dick, and I think that's why it's called The Whale. And with that whole message thing, like that's kind of like one of the messages I got from it is like we all, including Charlie, Charlie saw himself as the whale, and multiple times in the essay she talks about like how he says once they kill the whale, just finish the whale, everything's gonna be better. You know what I mean? Everything's gonna be good again. So he really felt like he never did anything right and he just wanted to do something right. And at that point, he just thought he was just killing himself because he was worthless. And it's actually really sad throughout the movie that he declines help. But I also think it shows a big heart of character in the way it's like, and I'm gonna be brutally honest, it's pathetic, but it's beautiful at the same time. Because as a person, he had no self respect for himself and he wasn't willing to go get help. But at the same time, he was doing it all for his daughter. So it's like, you know, you respect him in a way, but as you said earlier, it's like, can you really feel bad for him to an extent? Because like that's what I'm saying. He's pathetic and he doesn't want help. Liz throughout the movie constantly is telling him, "You're gonna die. Like, stop doing that. Let's go to the hospital." He's known for years he's had money and that he could. He just chose not to. And
Mhm.
you're not gonna be able to help somebody who doesn't want the help. And that's where it's like I can see where you're saying it leaves you in a middle ground of, do you want to feel bad for him? And on my side, I did. I took it as I enjoyed the little patheticness. I was like, oh, you poor little guy, you poor little dude,
Yeah. I
left your wife for a man. You poor little dude.
yeah, yeah. It's like I understand. I understand that. He was selfish, pathetic, but they emphasize that too much. It's like, which is why I think,
Exactly.
like you said, a flashback scene might have been the one thing that would have made this movie one of my favorite movies so far.
I agree. No, I,
But
I honestly think you're right with the potential part. That would have
yeah,
made it a little bit better.
sure, sure, and I think that's what got me. And
We don't even see Liz's relationship with him.
well,
Like he's
that's
so involved and he's just not there
and there's
throughout the
only
story.
6 characters, 5 characters in this movie, and they somehow didn't expand on any of them. And the only character they really emphasized on, I mean, they tried with the pastor guy, Ty Simpkins' character. She did a good
Yeah.
job with him. They
He did
tried
a
with
good job.
him. They did a really good job with Sadie Sink's character. I thought she had the most character development. Maybe right
Absolutely.
beside Brendan Fraser, but I thought her character was executed beautifully. I don't think you could have done that any better. But just give us something, bro. Just give us a little bit of, just a cookie. You know what I mean? Give me a brownie. It's just something, bro. Some dessert. Something that can bring me in it, and then keep me
Yeah.
there. And to be honest, the director's vision itself would have kept me there, even
Hmm.
if the performances went off toward the end, which they didn't. But even if they did, you have me in the whole film now, and they
Yep.
just didn't do it. So
Yeah.
that was my problem. Like I said, I need to watch this a couple more times to really, digest it.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of I understand what the movie was going for, and it did good at what it was going for. But I feel like just
You see
one
more
more thing could have
potential.
got me, and yeah, 100% exactly.
No, I totally no. That's a good take, dude. You know what I mean? I'm a big message guy. Like, you know what I mean? I get super sentimental with those things and I resonate a
Yeah.
lot with it. So I think that's really why I enjoyed it so much. And I don't know, like Brendan Fraser's character felt so realistic to me because he was so, and that's what I'm going to keep constantly bringing up, pathetic. And that's not even in a derogatory way. His character is pathetic and it was sad and it was relatable because sometimes you just don't feel like you're worth it. And sometimes you just don't want to get up. And sometimes you want to eat like crap and you don't want to see people, but sometimes you don't want to accept your problems. And I think that's like the big theme around the movie is a lot of them needed their truth. And that's what I was like talking about a little bit earlier. Each character I feel like has very similar truth. They all had something to prove. And they all wanted the kind of the spotlight of humanity, but were kind of grunted away from it.
Hmm.
So we can dabble a little bit more on that once we go into the pros.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah, that's my little thing.
No,
I totally get what you're saying though. Like,
that's a beautiful segue into the pros, bro. So if you want to start talking about that a little bit, go for it, and we can just dive into it, make it smooth.
all
You know what
right,
I mean? Go for it, my
yeah,
boy.
yeah, no. And I've been telling Logan, like, I've been really digging deep into the theme and really all of the themes in general that are in this movie. There's multiple. And like we've pretty much talked on this one, so I'll just touch on it a little bit, but touching back on base, the whole idea of humanity kind of not betraying Charlie and characters like Sadie, but Sadie fights so hard the outside world because she doesn't feel accepted, and Charlie doesn't want to be seen by the outside world because he feels so pathetic. And the missionary, he runs away because he's not accepted, and the mother doesn't feel like she's accepted because she feels like she failed as a mother. Liz, she's the problem with Liz in the movie is there's so many times she could have done something and saved him, but she just didn't. And is that wrong of her? No, because in real life, that's not her place to say. But at the same time, she pushed for it. There's nothing more she could have done. But at the same time, coming from the outside perspective, you're like, wow, like there could have maybe been something she could have done to save him. And it's a big thing, actually, with a big reason the boyfriend wasn't in the film. I've seen that they were trying to create that whole thing of like that's why Charlie was never really be like able to forgive himself, because Charlie, once everyone had abandoned the boyfriend when they found out they came out homosexual, that Charlie told him he didn't need anybody else. He didn't need God. He didn't need his family. He didn't need Liz. He just needed him. He would love him. And Charlie takes, I think, a lot of blame and a lot of acceptance for Alan's death.
100%.
And yeah, and I think that's it affects every single person in the movie in a way, because he's he's just worsening his condition. He won't get help. He's trying to make a life for Sadie Singh's character, and that's something, another point that leads back to the truths in the movie. He left Sadie Sink when her character was 8 in the movie, and it was about like almost 10 years later when he decided to try and come back, and it was only the week of his death. So he was really trying to connect with her once he was, starting to go.
Yep.
But, you know, and that's where I think the ending, and no, won't spoil anything, but the ending, their truths, they both were able to finally like accept themselves and accept that they've done something right, and she's a good girl, and he's done something good for her, and that she'll be set for life. And yeah, it's like it comes, when I see it, it comes full circle, and kind of a humanity standpoint, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You sit there and you look at it, and they all struggled with something at the beginning, but by the end they were willing to go home. Now, do I think, like how we talked about earlier, the missionary, they could have they could have added another point actually on my board as well by having him explode and capitalize on his character arc, but I just don't feel like he did there. I feel like they stayed consistent with that theme. He ends up getting home, and in a weird way, but he ends up getting home and accepted, and he was happy, and all he wanted to do was help Charlie regardless. You know what I mean? And I think
No, you're
that's a
right.
big thing. I think Charlie ends up accepting, I wouldn't necessarily say God, and I'll say religion is a gigantic theme of the movie. It's a
Yeah.
big premise of the
Oh
movie.
yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily he accepted God, but he accepted the fact that he's not alone and that he was worth saving. And I think that's why the ending is the way it is, you know what I mean? And he
Sure.
eventually gets that other side and the better life, you know what I mean?
The acceptance thing is definitely something that I didn't really see. So
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up. No, it makes a lot of sense though. The movie is about acceptance. You look
Yeah.
at it in every aspect. You know what I mean? Especially surrounding Charlie's character. The fact that you're that's actually beautiful. And then you said everybody went home and did their own thing, went on with their life. I really like that. You're definitely on something there. And I don't expect anything less from this director. This guy is
Yeah.
unreal, and that's one of
He
my
was
pros.
amazing.
Insane. And that's
Yeah.
what kept me into the movie, a little bit. Was the
No, I
directing.
agree on that.
It was unreal.
100%.
He captured the emotion of each scene really well, which is why I really wish I would have been more engaged, because I think that would have been even more impactful. And then you go to the last 20 minutes of the film, which I loved already as it is. If
Yes.
I would have been engaged, bro, if they would have just thrown me a flashback scene, give me
Thrown me
something with
one
just
bone.
one, bro. That's it, man. Just something. Throw something my way, dude. Give me some chum. That's all I need. And then I will come to your boat. It's exactly what I'll do, and I'll stay there and I'll enjoy it. And that's
That's our overall review of the movie. Could have used a little more chum.
just a little bit more chum, you know what I mean? Okay, our name's gonna be different now. It's called Actors Chum. But yeah, so that's like, I don't know. I wish I would have liked this movie a little more if they would have went a little bit more with it. But
Yeah.
We're done with the cons. It just really bothers me. But with the pros, yeah, I mean, just phenomenal job by him. And then I love that theme that you pointed out. I think that's really solid. I think that's it. That is one thing. This movie is very consistent when it comes to pacing and theme.
Yes.
The only thing that fell off, like you said, was the pastor kid. I don't know why I
Yeah.
keep calling him a pastor, but whatever he is, he
Yeah. The
was
missionary.
yeah, the missionary. Yeah, there you go. He had some weird personalities. There was something there, which
And
explore that.
it's the problem for me is they tried his character and he did a great job. It's not his fault.
No, Ty's great. Yeah,
What they did is they tried to stay consistent with the character arc story, but tried to stay true to the idea that the world would turn their back on him. And when Charlie felt he was being disrespected because of his sexuality, he got in his face and he was like, "Oh, you think I'm disgusting? You think I'm gross?" And he got him to admit, he was like, "Yes, I do. I think you're gross," which is, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that caused him to leave, and it left them on a bad term. And I'll say that because his character was really trying to uplift Charlie the whole movie and save him. And I think, in a way, it is wrong and he could have done more, but in a way it makes sense for the themes it was going for because his character completed what he did. Charlie ended up finding faith, regardless of if it was God or whatever. The ending proves Charlie found faith and he was able to find what the missionary described. They asked him at the beginning of the movie, and I think this is a phenomenal thing that they did. They foreshadowed this. They then this is a spoiler, guys. Basically, he starts talking about how Charlie's like, "Hey, do you really think the world is gonna end soon? You really think it's all gonna end?" He goes, "I do. I really think Jesus is gonna come down and he's gonna save us all, and the world is gonna rebirth, and everything's gonna be better." And when you look at the end of the movie, that's really what happens to Charlie. He finds that faith, and after he completes his goal, he proved to himself the one thing that he could do something for his daughter. He got up without his walker and he made it all the way to her, and that was that was the only thing he wanted to do in life. It was complete. That was the acceptance thing for me, and then he found that afterlife. So that completed the missionary
yeah.
story. And then Sadie her father wanted to reconnect with her. She was finally happy she had her dad back. That was everyone got a little check mark, but we'll always go back to that point. I still think they could have done something different, but I understand. It's
Yeah,
like a
it's
B.
more of yeah, no, I
Like a
get it.
B arc.
It's more of like a potential thing. You know what I mean? Like they,
Yes.
they did good with what they
It's
were
like
going
Anakin
for.
Skywalker.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're just give us some more. There's more there. They just didn't go with it. But for what they were going for, the movie was good with that. It was just not my
I hope my
taste.
points resonated. I hope my themes and stuff make
Oh,
sense.
100%. And I know everybody listening and watching, they're thinking the same thing. Yeah, I mean that you opened my eyes to some stuff for sure. Because what I love about this film too, and especially the last 20 minutes, like I said, that's a big pro for me, is it's open to so much interpretation. Everybody's
It
gonna have
is.
a different take on it, different thoughts about it, different feel about it. They might like a character's arc. I might not like it, but they might like it, or I might like it, but they don't like it.
There
This
you
movie
go.
leaves a lot to be desired, which I think is interesting, and I think a lot of
It
people are
is.
gonna have a lot of different opinions, and I mean this movie's been out for 2 months now. You look at the reviews, very split. You got people that love it, and you got people that hate
Yeah,
it. There's
people
no in
that hate
between.
it.
You
It's
know,
crazy,
it's very weird. But there's one thing that's always consistent, and that's the performances are unbelievably good, and the directing is really good too. Those are the two
Yeah.
things that are always people can always be in agreement with, and it makes sense. I mean,
And
I'm
A24, man, they're
oh
such a good
the
production
way
company.
they made this one right.
Yes. Yes,
I
they
love
did.
H24.
And
They're
they're
so
so good.
dude. They can do like all different types of films too. That's what I love about them.
I
They
was
don't
gonna
just
say
do
their
one
films are
genre.
so diverse,
Dude, I
man.
know, unreal, and that's one thing about A24. They always deliver on really good performances, every single one of their films,
Because they did
even if their movies. Good,
everything, anywhere, all at once. The one that got
yeah,
nominated, they did that one as well. Like they're
yeah,
freaking going crazy right
unreal stuff. A24 is doing their thing, man. So big shout out to them. Actually, I was thinking about getting one of their hats the other day, dude, because they're one of my favorite companies
now. Oh
out there.
yeah,
But yeah, that is one very consistent thing with them is their performances. So now that they were behind it, it makes a lot of sense now.
yeah.
But yeah, no, those Oscar nominations, I'm so happy that Hong Chow
Ah,
actually
dude,
got
man.
a nomination. I didn't even know that, dude. She
Yeah,
deserves it. She's very underrated. I love
Brendan
Brendan
and
Fraser,
her.
but
Yeah, they had their connection in the movie was my favorite because
Yeah.
you never see one like that in movies today. It's either really romantic or they're like siblings, but like this was like that was his best friend inside of the the haunting shell of someone he used to love. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's what I was just about to say. I just thought of this now. You know, that connection, maybe they didn't do a flashback because they thought that that connection was good
Was
enough to show what that
yeah.
relationship was like with his boyfriend. That
Uh-huh.
might be what they're trying to go for there. But I'm
She
someone
would
who
cuddle up on him and stuff.
that's what I'm saying. So like
And it's not
there's
even weird, but you know, you got a point.
and but you felt it. But I feel like
Yeah.
you need to give us some once again, just give us something a little more. Like
Yeah.
I feel like they just I don't know, just give us something a little more. But actually, I do like that now. That is definitely a big pro. I didn't even think about that, but and I'll view that way differently next time I watch it. Which is once again why this. Listen, this is our first time watching the movie. We're gonna have very different
Heck yeah.
opinions on it the
We
more we
talked
watch
the
it.
first thing we said when we left was like we're gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna
one of
go
those you
back
got to
and
let
watch it one more
resonate,
time.
100%.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, this is like I said, good film, incredible performances. Just a movie that I'm not. It's not really rewatchable for me. I'm gonna watch it again for sure, but not very rewatchable in the sense of it's a movie that I just put in on some Saturday night.
Yeah.
But a good movie. So let's yeah. Any last thoughts on it, Brady?
No, I mean, I guess my little review is I would definitely watch it again. I am going to give the movie an 8.7.
That's a good one. That's actually really good. I thought you were gonna go 9 there for a second. I think you were feeling it. You're kind of flirting with it a little bit. You know, you
No, I
gotta
was
just say
thinking
what's
about
up
it.
to it.
But something I'm gonna give it to him. Dave Portnoy. He established this thought in my head. I don't know if you've ever seen his pizza reviews. He
Oh,
never gives a 10. He's
that's true.
never given a 10. He'll never give a
The
10. Because if you give a 10, there's nothing to is that that's basing the best. That's you
yeah.
saying it's the best. So 8.7, I think that's, in real terms, that's an A. You know what I mean? That's a good movie.
That's true. That's true. That's great. Yeah, for me, I'm probably gonna go just a 7.5 out of 10. It's a good movie. Just a film that had potential, and if it would have done
Mhm.
everything right, it has potential to be a 9.5. Easy, easy. Their performance is already there. The director's already there. Just one little flashback or one little like just something that would have
Mhm.
brought me into the movie, it automatically goes up to 9.5. And if I'd have been engaged, because I love the ending, like I just said, as it was. But if I was
It was
interested,
great.
dude, I would have probably cried. I really would have. But
Yeah.
I wasn't engaged.
I
You know what I
probably
mean?
would have
As
cried
much.
if Logan wasn't there.
Yeah, we've all been there. Trust me, I'm gonna talk about it in my top 10 movies. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But no, man. So yeah, I give it a 7.5, and then Braden with the 8.7 out of 10.